Local readers have been getting their news, commentary, and insights from the Boston Phoenix for almost half a century. What began as an alternative for a younger generation became so much a fixture. The end, when it came earlier this month, took many by surprise. But the publication deserves a closer look for what it says about the media's past, present, and future. And joining us from the Phoenix are executive editor Peter Kadzis and the art and design director Kristen Goodfriend. Thank you both very much for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
Peter, I want to let you go back to at least your beginning with the Phoenix. You're a kid growing up in Boston, and how did you stumble into it?
I saw my first copy of what was then Boston After Dark when I was 14 years old at the First National store in Lower Mills. I remember just going in the store to get something and seeing this new paper. And even at 14, I was a little bit of a publication nerd because I remember very distinctly seeing it was Volume 1, Number 2. So I can't claim to be with the Phoenix since the beginning, but that was the first time I read Boston After Dark, and I joined the paper almost 25 years ago. So it's been a long relationship.
What excited you about it, though?
It was different. I mean, when I was 14, it was just different. At the time, it was all arts and entertainment. And there were things covered in there. I don't remember specifically what, but I remember thinking like, wow, I don't see that in the Globe. And I think that was pretty much my reaction.
Okay. Kristen, talk about your work here, because in a way you are really the face of the Phoenix as we've known it for the past decade and more. And the face meaning is that there's one image that leaps out, and this is the snapshot of almost everything in the past week here. Talk about what you do to make that happen.
Well, every week there was a mix of stories, and generally we'd come to a consensus. These are the big stories. These are the cover contenders. And from there, it's just a matter of doing the image research, maybe working with a photographer or illustrator, and doing it very quickly. There's not a lot of time to plan, but it's after I did the image research, it becomes a very collaborative process with the editor to come up with the right words. I've occasionally written headlines that have stuck, which is a fun thing to do. But
and you're playing on images in the back of our minds. I'm thinking now because of the same-sex marriage cases before the Supreme Court, you had that cover of Obama crossing the river and
yes.
More perfect. How did that happen?
That was one of those times where I was kind of looking at historical images for inspiration, and somehow just got the idea to manipulate that photo. So I actually did the Photoshop work of that, and the key was putting in that rainbow flag and putting Obama to the front. It's just simple, just says a lot without being too complicated. Yeah,
the phrase from Lincoln and the look of George Washington. Peter, talk about what changed over the years, because there was one thing that one of your colleagues back in the day, Dan Kennedy, brought up. This wasn't even so much about content in the Phoenix and keeping in touch with people as it was about community. And explain what he meant by that, because I think that must have been a very difficult thing to overcome in a way.
Well, I think what Dan meant is that the Phoenix relied, using it in the past tense, relied on voice to communicate. It was it's not that facts didn't matter, but all our stories or criticism always had a strong point of view, and the writer's voice or the designer's eye, if you will, played a big role. And I think over the years, I know this was certainly true when I was a young guy reading it, and certainly true since I've been there, our readers, it's not so much whether the reader agrees or disagrees, it's can they relate to it? Does this seem like a reasonable or a challenging thing to say? So I think the voices of the Phoenix have been what have mattered the most over time.
But I think as far as community, about the disappearances of performance venues, bookstores out there anymore, record stores out there.
See, it's funny. No, I know what you mean. Yeah. And I mean, my God, no one loves nostalgia or the recent past more than the Phoenix. And I mean, my God, every year we say the city's sold out and it's getting worse and worse, but we still love it. But see, I think the thing about the Phoenix is that we've never let the past die, if you will, that there's been a certain continuum, and yeah, even young readers who never went to the Rat might know that there was once a nightclub called the Rat, because anyone who cares about local music in Boston knows there was a place called the Rat. So there's a certain paradox at work here, because the Phoenix is very much about what's going on at the moment or what's going on at the week, but I don't think it ever let go of the recent past either.
Kristen, what drew you to the Phoenix exactly?
Well, when I was a student at BU, I would pick up the paper, and my favorite columnist was Caroline Knapp. Always loved to read her columns, and then, so I would start there, and then I'd flip through and find other things that would catch my interest.
Now, for readers, viewers who don't remember Caroline, talk a little bit about her, because she had quite a career.
Yeah, well, I actually met her personally shortly after I started the Phoenix. It was her going away party, but she, actually, I don't know, I can't really speak about her personally too much, but she just had an amazing voice. She had gone through a lot of experiences with her alcoholism, but she was also like really highly functional and professional, and I just found everything she wrote about really inspiring, and she just wrote really well. I read her books too.
But the other thing about this paper is that getting away from the daily in and out kind of journalism, and you had some experience with that as well. Talk about that difference, because I think that's another thing that made it apart.
Well, I think when a Phoenix story worked, which hopefully was more often than not, when a Phoenix story works, it brings you there, but it establishes a context. It's not just what's happening, but it gives you a sense of why it's happening, and also what it might mean. I mean, I think David Bernstein's political writing, and Adam Riley before him doing that, or Dan Kennedy's, media writing, or Chris Ferrone's terrific coverage of Occupy, all not only put you in the moment, but at the same time, the camera sort of zooms back and gives you a sense of the larger panorama in which all this was happening.
I know there are these instances of people who went on from the Phoenix to do great things elsewhere as well, and there are things that the Phoenix started that got picked up later on, a sex abuse scandal in the Catholic Church. The Globe did a lot with that, and then we're reminded before the Globe, there was the Phoenix.
Well, we were there first, although the Globe, broke ground that no one ever broke, because they had the financial muscle to get the legal documents unsealed. But no, a good year before, Kristen Lombardi did a terrific job reporting that. Susan Ryan Volmar was her editor. But I have to say, it was publisher Stephen Mindich who pulled who set it off with I forget exactly what it was, but he asked me a question about why did the Globe and the Herald cover something about Father Gagan so differently? And it was from that just very honest, off-the-cuff inquiry from Stephen that, launched us, and Kristen in particular, on what was a pretty amazing journey. I mean, no, we were out there, and along with the National Catholic Reporter, to give other people that do, a good year before the Globe was.
And this is at a time when I think the church leadership was a lot more intimidating as far as
Not to us, but certainly to a lot of other people. I mean, it's not that we had, it's not that we weren't afraid of them. It was just like, geez, there's a good story here. And there was no one more dogged than Kristen Lombardi, and she just went at it.
Brother Kristen Goodfriend, thinking over some of the covers you work on, is there any in particular that you're especially proud of?
Well, the Obama cover I thought turned out really well.
Is this the same one, Crossing
the river? Yes. That one just came together and clicked. I also really enjoyed some of the parody issues we did. We did a Weekly World News parody cover for The World is Coming to an End. We did a monkey issue of all things, and just kind of co-opted the Andy Warhol Velvet Underground cover Banana for that, and just put the monkey issue on there. That was a lot of fun to work with. So.
Yeah, and really, Kristen's partner in the magazine covers, I played a big role in the newspaper covers before, but was Carly Carioli, who's not technically, has been the last editor of the Boston Phoenix. And the last incarnation of the Phoenix as a magazine was really very much Carly and Kristen's baby.
And actually, Shala Clark, too, our managing editor, she came up with a lot of great ideas. I think between the three of us, having late night conversations, we came up with some really fun ideas, and just having the chance to execute them was one of my favorite things about the job.
Well, what was it like working with people in brainstorming to get these things done?
Oh, it was great. I mean,
Are you telling the truth now?
no, I really
I mean,
am,
you got a lot of egos in the room here piling on, right?
Yeah, but everyone's very nice. It's not like someone's trying to shove their idea down your throat. As the editor, Carly would have the ultimate call. Like if I was saying, no, I really want to do this, and I would make my case for it, he could say, well, I see your point, but we're not going to do that. We're going to do the one that I want to go with. And, I have respect for him. I have respect for everyone I work with. So, I was able to just say, okay, it's your judgment. I'm okay with that.
And Kristen has always had a quiet but steely presence. Very quiet, just goes about doing her stuff, and she can impress herself in a room full of noisy, egotistical guys better than most people might realize.
Peter, what about the future? Do you think that the void that's left by the Phoenix is something that can be filled in some way? Yes, maybe with a different scale of budget, but with some comparable interfacing that goes on.
Someone will fill it in a different way. It'll probably be online. Who knows? It might be. I'm making this up. Actually, surprisingly, Chris, no one's asked me that. It might be an entirely, free, not-for-profit, freewheeling sort of thing. I could definitely see something coming into the void, but it would be very different. I mean, the reason the Phoenix closed was because the national advertising dollars, which made a big difference, weren't there. And Stephen, we didn't want to, dumb the Phoenix down, reduce it to a lowest common denominator. Someone starting from scratch, probably some young people at a place like BU or something, they'd come up with something pretty interesting, I'm sure.
Kristen, how did you take the news, by the way, when you found it was going to...
Oh, well, I was really saddened by it, of course. I spent my entire career at the Phoenix. That said, it wasn't a surprise that things ended necessarily, because I think we all knew things weren't going particularly well with the advertising. But on the editorial side, I think that we were strong as ever. We kept it going. We were still working on the next issue up until right before Stephen told us. So yeah, it was a bit of a shock how suddenly.
Without missing much of a beat. I mean, we did publish online. Right. David Bernstein has the. David S. Bernstein has the his historic bragging rights to having the last cover story of the Phoenix. There may not have been a cover printed, but there was one.
Yeah, we actually designed the last cover and put it up as a graphic.
Well, Peter, now that you spend so much of your life with this paper, would you do it again? Would you say to somebody growing up in Dorchester, Lower Mills, be a journalist when you grow up?
I would, and anyone, listen, it's always been a tough business to break into. It's tougher today, but I can't imagine being paid to have this much fun ever. So I'd say do it.
All right. Well, good way to go out. Thank you both very much, Peter Kadzis and Kristen Goodfriend from the Boston Phoenix.